So Trump is now, for the first time, openly talking about threatening, blowing up, taking out Pickaxe Mountain, which is Iran's crown jewel, their most fortified nuclear safe sites, nuclear locations. And how would you have to do that? All the experts agree you could only do that with a tactical nuclear weapon, and even that might not be enough. And guess who's not going to be opposed to that idea? Benjamin Netanyahu, who, by the way, visited Dimona, yes, that Dimona, Israel's secret nuclear facility, just yesterday. Netanyahu publicly threatened to use nuclear weapons against Iran, not explicitly, but implicitly, while speaking in Dimona. Some people in Iran are still under the impression that, like, the memorandum of understanding is like a real document that the United States wanted to uphold, but they just couldn't. And from the very first day, it was so obvious that this was a horrible plan. This was a plan only to allow the United States to build up more troops in the region. 82nd Airborne Division. They've sent the Marine Expeditionary Units to West Asia, wherever in West Asia, I don't know, to get more air defenses and standoff munitions to the region as well. That was the plan the whole time, okay? And right now, what we are witnessing is the war before the war. We are witnessing the Battle of Hormuz, I've seen people call it. And frankly speaking, I don't understand the logic of... I don't understand the logic of a country that says, well, as long as you don't bomb our capital city, we are going to kind of just be a little bit hands-off in our retaliation to you wherever else you decide to bomb. So if you decide to bomb southern Iran, if you decide to bomb the coastal areas in western Iran, then we're not going to do too much. You know, we're going to try to, go to Pakistan again, go to Oman again, and we're going to try to negotiate this all out. And that is not, from what I can see, the opinion of the supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. He is seemingly of a different sort of mindset, and these two mindsets of Ghalibaf and Pezeshkian and Araghchi versus the mindset of the supreme leader and some of the people that he selected to speak at the funeral procession, the burial and mashad of his father, the martyred leader Sayyid Ali Khamenei, like Dr. Sayyid Jalili and Ali Ahmed Khomeini, the grandson of Imam Khomeini, who have a different approach, which is a different mindset, saying, we're not hopeful at all about this MOU. We'll hope that it goes well. And, here are our red lines. And as soon as the red lines are being violated, we need to respond. So the United States is bombing left and right. They are trying to shove these ships through the Omani route in the Strait of Hormuz. And we are seeing a lot of increased action from the Iranians. I'm going to go into some of that in a moment here in our next story. But first, I want to show you just how serious the U.S. is right now about escalating this war into unthinkable worlds, against Iran. I mean, it is absolutely insane. There is no hope whatsoever that anyone should have that this can just be negotiated out. This can be hammered out in some talks in Islamabad or in Muscat. That's not going to happen. So let's take a look at this. For starters, we have this. I mean, my God. President Trump has formally notified the U.S. Congress that the U.S. is at war with Iran. The move gives Trump another 60 days to use the military in the region without congressional approval. Trump said strikes that began on July 7th represent military action consistent with my responsibility to protect Americans and U.S. interests both at home and abroad. Trump also just said that he will hit Iran hard tonight amid mounting tensions. So this is all the proof you need to see that the war is on. The war has been officially declared by Donald Trump, and he has 60 days before Congress can take a vote on whether or not they support this war or oppose this war using the War Powers Resolution. So he's got 60 days. War is on. This is the war before the war, the Battle of Hormuz, whatever you want to call it. Trump is also going to be delivering an important speech to the nation 9 p.m. on Thursday. Now, this might be the formal declaration of war that he has already conveyed to Congress. I don't know. We don't know what this is about, but it has attracted some big headlines. We saw intense attacks from the United States on several regions of Iran, on coastal regions in southern Iran over the past 24 hours. Let's take a look at some of these. U.S. is hitting what seem to be relatively unimportant targets in these regions. They, of course, are failing at these assassination strikes. They hit Kish, Bushehr, strikes very, very close next to the Bushehr nuclear power plant. Thank God there were, the active workflow was not interrupted. Jask, Bandar Kangan, Chabahar, Bandar Abbas. Personally, I believe that the U.S. is going to try and stage some sort of a forward operating base in Chabahar as the next round of aggression begins in a big way. Most of these strikes that you're seeing right now are going to be targeted at radar systems, air defense systems, which are very hard to hit because these air defense systems are mobile. These radars get replaced within a matter of, an hour on these coastal regions. So, what are they doing? They're trying to soften up the coastline. They're trying to soften up the southern regions of Iran in anticipation for what we all believe is coming, some sort of an operation to try and do some landing operation, either on Keshem Island, Kish Island, Karg Island, or in Chabahar port, okay? Now, this was a big mistake that Bahrain, forced error from Bahrain. HIMARS missiles were launched at Iran late last night or early this morning. You can view it about 3:17 a.m. local time in Tehran from Bahrain. HIMARS missiles being launched from Bahrain is a huge escalation, and it drew a very large response from Iran that is actually still ongoing. I mean, I'm seeing reports Khorramshahr missiles launch up Bahrain. You see these massive submunitions spraying all across Bahrain. Dozens of explosions reported every few minutes. So the situation in Bahrain is not good. And as we read that, there are renewed explosions in Bandar Abbas, Keshem Island in southern Iran. About 20 minutes ago, explosions in the city of Avaz in southern Iran. So the strikes continue. Of course, it is not true that they have nothing. I mean, Iran is doing extensive damage over the past 24 hours. Again, we're going to cover this in our next story. They hit radar installations, drone logistics sites, factories at the manufacturing plants of drones at these U.S. bases all across the region. They even did quite a bit of damage to Jordan. But the U.S. is very content with the idea of escalating the situation beyond just strikes on the coastal areas, strikes on unimportant infrastructure in the southern regions. There have been reports that water and electricity infrastructure on Iran's Kish Island were hit. Again, hitting any water, electricity infrastructure is a big no-no for Iran. That's a huge red line. Kish is a civilian resort area in the Persian Gulf, home to roughly 40,000 people, and one of Iran's main free trade zones. Now, also, this is a very interesting series of reports I want to go through. CNN has released exclusive satellite data showing that Iran has started rebuilding the Talikan 2 nuclear site in Parchin. Talikan 2 is a heavily fortified high explosives testing chamber suspected to have played an important role during Iran's covert AMAD nuclear weapons program in the early 2000s. It was rapidly expanded before the recent war. The site was buried with sand by Iranian military engineers shortly before the attacks, attempting to protect the internal structure from severe damage. It seems all 3 holes in the roof have now been fixed. But even more damning for those who want to maintain peace, maintain some sort of stability in the region is this story right here, another nuclear story. This was reported earlier today in the early morning hours. A few hours ago, so afternoon time yesterday in the United States, President Trump said The U.S. would take out Iran's most deeply fortified underground nuclear site called Pickaxe Mountain near Natanz. Listen to this closely. If you haven't listened to any story in this stream thus far, listen to this closely. Pickaxe Mountain is located more than 100 meters underground beneath a mountain made of pure granite, one of the hardest rocks in existence. It is several times deeper and more hardened than Fordow, which itself was likely only marginally damaged. It is presumed to be the location, Pickaxe, of Iran's highly enriched uranium stockpile and possibly covert enrichment cascade halls. The site is so well fortified that the U.S. did not even attempt to target it in 2025 or 2026. Most analysts agree that Pickaxe Mountain could only be taken out by a tactical nuclear weapon, and even then, success is not assured. So Trump is now, for the first time, openly talking about threatening, blowing up, taking out Pickaxe Mountain, which is Iran's crown jewel, their most fortified nuclear safe sites, nuclear locations. And how would you have to do that? All the experts agree you could only do that with a tactical nuclear weapon, and even that might not be enough. Now, this is a very, very dangerous genie that cannot be put back in the bottle. Pickaxe Mountain nuclear site is the elephant in the room that nobody has been talking about. It almost certainly holds Iran's enriched uranium stockpile. It is very likely a covert enrichment site. We know for sure that at least some centrifuges were moved to a hull below the mountain. Both sides are conveniently silent about this. Iran has been actively expanding it during and after the recent wars. Why does nobody in the U.S. talk about this site until now? Because it's basically impossible to take out. Once they point it out, something has to be done about it. That means one of two things: tactical nuclear weapons or a ground operation. It's very possible, by the way, that this was one of the targets that the U.S. had under its scope, under its sights during the Ramadan War. But after their failed operation in Isfahan that went nowhere but into ash and rubble and flames, with a bunch of Air Force cargo jets being burned to the ground near Isfahan, that this was tossed out to the side, and they said, we're going to have a memorandum of understanding and come back and revisit this one at a later date. Well, now they are visiting it once more, and it's very concerning, very concerning. This is a site that would require, according to the experts, tactical nukes, and guess who's not going to be opposed to that idea? Benjamin Netanyahu, who, by the way, visited Dimona, yes, that Dimona, Israel's secret nuclear facility, just yesterday. Netanyahu publicly threatened to use nuclear weapons against Iran, not explicitly, but implicitly, while speaking in Dimona, near Israel's main nuclear research facility, where the country maintains an undeclared nuclear weapons program. Netanyahu made it clear that this will, quote, be a very different event and much more powerful event. We are prepared for any scenario with Iran. So there you have it. If anyone is open, supportive, and gung-ho for the idea of dropping nuclear bombs on Pickaxe Mountain, it would be Netanyahu. And it seems as though he is, despite Lindsey Graham being gone, he's got someone whispering in Trump's ear about Pickaxe Mountain. And this would be a very, very, very stupid, foolish, naive, dangerous, damaging, depraved, all the words you can think of to say this is a bad, stupid idea. This would be a horrible, horrific escalation from the Trump administration. But given all the information I just gave you, do you think it's out of the possibility? Do you think it's like out of the realm of possibility? Do you understand why I'm looking at this and I'm saying, how insane is it that there are still people saying, oh, let's go to Islamabad and negotiate. Let's go to Muscat and negotiate. We can hammer this stuff out. No. We're long past that. Every red line has been violated. Even the silly red lines of the MOU, like no new sanctions on Iran, like they couldn't even uphold that. No new threats against Iran. They couldn't even uphold that, right? No return to war. No threatening a return to war. They couldn't even uphold the most basic of red lines in the memorandum of understanding. This is long dead and over. There's no coming back from this whatsoever. It's time to move on, defend yourselves, and prepare for the worst case scenario because we are dealing with actual demons. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.